right. Hello and welcome, everyone. So, with the new year, let's finally talk about Caliban. Now, you might be wondering why I've waited so long to talk about Caliban. And there's an excuse I made up, and then there's the actual reason, and then there's the reason that was before that. So, the one I made up is because hopefully DE are about to rework him as they should be returning to the office in the new year. Or buff him, or help him out. Just some kind of assistance would be much appreciated. That's the reason I made up. That's not really real. And then the actual reasons were, one, I was doing new war stuff, and I was really excited about that and didn't want to mess with Caliban anymore. And then the other thing is, I was very busy with holiday things. So whenever I wanted to get back to it, I just didn't have time. So here we are at the beginning of the year talking about Caliban. And by my hopefully he gets some buffs comment, you can probably assume he's not so great. Caliban's real rough. Or that, if you want to use Caliban, I would pretty much suggest this build. It doesn't use any Forma, and I would not recommend you use any Forma whatsoever on this Warframe. But he wants 200% strength, he wants some efficiency, he wants some range, and he doesn't really want to go negative on duration. So base duration is probably what you're going to want to stick to around at. I will say, if you don't have Energize, I would probably still just suggest using Fleeting Expertise over Flow, because your energy in is not going to be as much as you would get with Energize. Also, even though this Warframe has a few built-in defense mechanisms, I would really highly advise you to use Arcane Aegis, because he needs survivability help, because the way that he survives is heavily inconsistent. That's also why Gloom is subsumed over his 1, because that is what we give to Warframes that have questionable survivability of their own at this point. Okay, before we go any further, what does Caliban do and why is it not so great? We're going to switch to Configuration C, which is exactly the same, but it has his first ability. So we're just going to show off what these abilities do and talk about them. First and foremost is his 1. His 1 makes him spin like a Battleless, and it does mediocre at best damage, and you can use your 2 while you're in it. Your 2 is essentially Rhino's 4, except for some godforsaken reason, this has a maximum targets associated with it. And also it makes enemies more damage vulnerable, but that part's kind of whatever. It has good range. I really don't know why it has a maximum targets. Because in the cases where that's going to come up, that will probably lead to your death, because you will think everyone should be stunned. I really don't like maximum targets as a thing on any ability in Warframe, so it's unfortunate to see it here. Then we have his Lethal Progenies. Lethal Progeny are just these boys that you can summon. You can summon these 3 boys. You probably want to summon them one at a time. I will say, for like little allies that you can summon, they don't die very often. They're very good at just staying alive and doing the thing that they do, which, as you can see in the top right, is giving me a bunch of shields. They generate a bunch of shields for you, and you can see... Oh, they're not doing it now, because obviously I'm topped off. But whenever you have shields to regenerate, they're usually pretty good about just connecting to you with their line and giving you a bunch of shields. With that, however, there are a ton of factors that will make them stop giving you shields, whether that's they're fighting an enemy, you have had your shields broken, which for some reason that will make them stop giving you shields, or any number of other dumb factors, it seems like. The one thing this ability needs to do is look cool and drop in one of these boys and give you shields. That's all this needs to do, is constantly give you shields so that you can stay alive, but they don't do that. Randomly, they will just be like, nah, fuck it, die. So basically, you have to either babysit this at all times by constantly hitting the button and spending energy on it, or alternatively, you can subsume Gloom. And that will keep you topped off between casting these every so often and giving you a bunch of shields and having enemies on like a 75% slow all the time. And then your 4. So the 4 has seen a change already, because it used to explode enemies out and spread them everywhere, and it was awful. But the 4 is much better now. Now the 4 is this TriBeam, which does little to no damage, but is an implosion once all the beams reach the center that sucks in enemies, and then enemies that are left in kind of the wake of that explosion will have their armor stripped by a percentage that is based off your strength, which is why he requires 200% strength to give you that full armor strip. Technically, you just need super high strength to make it worthwhile. But at that point, you might as well go all the way and go straight to 200%. And that is one of the major problems with him, is that he's incredibly build restrictive because he wants that 200% strength. Could you, of course, do less than 200% strength and build around other things? Sure. But the problem is that Caliban has nothing else to build around. This ability's bad and does almost no damage, and you shouldn't use it. So don't. If it's scaled off melee mods or something, maybe it would be worth pressing, but even then, it's pretty unlikely. Sentient Wrath is an okay ability that you're probably going to hit from time to time. The max targets is pretty unfortunate, and the damage vulnerability is not going to really matter in most cases. And the Lethal Progeny are really inconsistent, and you can only have 3 of them anyway, and none of the like damage multipliers or anything else that you can really modify on them actually really matter. Also, if you're, for whatever reason, planning to Caliban into like really, really high level stuff, their level is based on your strength also, so there's going to be a limitation to how long they become tanky if you're going to take them to like level 300 content or something for some reason. So yeah, Fusion Strike's kind of all he's got. And the bad thing about this ability is, to be completely and totally honest with you, what you are getting out of this ability for the 100 energy base cost that it is pretty much exact. And actually, out of his entire kit, all of the useful stuff that you get out of his entire kit in terms of useful things is pretty much covered by subsuming pillage onto literally any Warframe that can build around it, which is just duration and strength. That's not very uncommon. There's a bunch of Warframes that do that, whether that's, Chroma, Mesa, etc., etc. Like, there's a bunch of them that build that way. And all those Warframes have something else to do besides having pillage as well. So it makes a hard case for using Caliban for kind of anything. Notably, I suppose the armor strip is permanent, I guess. But So the long and the short of using Caliban is that his abilities, while thematically on point for him being a sentient Warframe, they don't really do much. Also, a thing that's notable is that anytime there are corrupted ancients, you see the enemies like get stumbled from that, but they don't actually like get the big knockdown and like vacuum together that you'd want, which is really unfortunate. We can just clean up these 185s here, but after their defenses are stripped. Not that this gun doesn't already kill these enemies without stripping their armor. But yeah, that's Caliban. That's the boy. That's what he does. He's out here trying. Hopefully they help him out in the new year. Hopefully